Hi, everyone. We are back with Paige Park. Paige is the founder of Soul Sanctuary, and she was with us last year at our women's health conference. And she's joining us again. And I'm so glad. It's been a while since I talked to her. But she's going to talk about transitioning, and I love this subject, transitioning from mother to crone, right? Is that the
Mm-hmm.
gist of it? Yeah,
Yes. Yes.
because we're all at that point. We're like, no, I don't want to go there. But if you can embrace it, you can be it. It's fantastic. It's so fantastic. All right, Paige.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here and to share with you. I'm going to try and share my screen here. We'll see if it'll let me. Okay. Technology is so much fun. Okay. So let's see if this will work now. Here we go. Huh. Hopefully you can see that. Okay, so we're going to talk today about unveiling the crone within, embracing change and self-discovery. And I'm just so excited to be here and to share with you. Like she said, my name is Paige Park. I'm a yoga, meditation, mindfulness teacher, and a grief guide. I'm a 500-hour yoga teacher. I've certified meditation teacher, children's yoga, yin yoga, and restorative yoga. I'm also a former mild disability special education teacher. I stepped away from the classroom last summer. And then for me, I'm a nature lover. I love to share this with others because I find my most connected to myself and my most connected to spirit, God, whatever word you might want to use in when I am in nature and when I am in the woods. I'm a redefined mother, so I'll explain a little bit more about what that is as I tell my story. I'm a dog mom. I'm a former stepmom who still moms one of the kids, and I'm a former school mom, but I have a few kids that still keep in contact with me. So today we're going to talk about, for me, motherhood redefined, and for those who may have needed to redefine motherhood for themselves and kind of what it means as we age and come into our crone years. We may even talk about caring for aging and dying parents, and what that can entail and how to support yourself through all of these different changes. So my story, how I approached motherhood was really different. I always wanted kids. I wanted to have children. When one of my dearest friends, her sister was in high school, she got pregnant. And I was in my 20s. We were a few years older than her sister. And I remember telling my friend, well, if your sister doesn't want to have the child and wants to give it up for adoption, I will happily adopt the child from her. And so motherhood was something that I always wanted and I wanted to embrace. When I met and married my husband, who I'm now divorced from, we talked about having children, and he, unbeknownst to me, didn't want any more kids. He had 2 from his previous marriage. And I went through different steps to try and have children with him because he had a vasectomy. And so we looked at adoption, we looked at artificial insemination, and every time we took steps toward it, he denied me. And then when we got divorced, I was 43, and I had told myself when I was in my late 20s that if I was 35 and I was still single, I was going to adopt on my own and become a single mother. And so when I got divorced, I was 43. or just about to turn 43. And I had this realization that, oh, I can adopt now. And I was going to take those steps. But as life sometimes happens, 5 months after my divorce was final, my mother was diagnosed with a brain tumor. My father had Parkinson's disease. And I went down this road of caring for my parents. After 9 months, my mother passed away. After 2 more years, my father passed away. So there was 3 years caring for mom and dad, another year taking care of their estate. And then I had to sort myself out and kind of figure out where I was in all of this. So I hosted a foreign exchange student. I was looking at maybe teaching overseas, and then my brother passed away. And so it took another 2 years, I think, to take care of all of his things. And the next thing I know, I'm almost 50, and motherhood hasn't happened for me. And so I decided to take a different approach and a different look. My foreign exchange student became my daughter. And she's a dear. It's been 6 years, and we still keep in contact. She's such a sweet kid. My oldest stepdaughter and I are very close, and so I'm more of a mom figure for her. I was surrounded by high school students. I taught high school for 10 years. I ended my career teaching high school for 10 years. I taught for over 20. And the kids would call me mom or call me school mom. And so they became my kids. And I had dogs. And so my dogs were also my kids. And I'm an aunt, and I love being an aunt and playing with my great niece and my great nephew, spending time with my other nieces. And so those relationships became my replacement for being a mom. So to be a mom for those people, to be that stabilizing, grounding force. And even with some of my friends, I'm that stabilizing, grounding force. And so that's how I ended up approaching motherhood later in my life. But as I've aged, I've had to come to terms with the fact that I wasn't going to be a mom. And here are some practices that helped support me through that and still help support me today. So gratitude, the little thing that made the biggest difference for me. I don't keep a gratitude journal right now, but I have in the past on and off for several years. And one of the things that I would do is each day I would write down 3 things that I was grateful for. It could be as simple as the sunshine. It could be my dog when she's acting silly or curled up in my lap. It could be my business and the things that I get to do in my life. It could be my friends, my family. It could be spending time in the woods, whatever it happened to be for me, that you can keep a gratitude journal. I also heard somewhere that somebody put them on Post-it notes and posted them around their living space. And I may have to try that one here one of these days soon. Because I think it would be fun to have them all around and to be able to look at them as you go throughout your day to bring that gratitude even more to mind. So one of the things that happens, the more you focus on gratitude and the things that support you and that you're grateful for, the more you find things to be grateful for. If that makes sense. It's just such a beautiful reciprocity. And it's a way, I heard a story earlier this week about romanticizing your life. And the woman who said it, she sent me a reel that she made, and she said, you are someone who I look at as romanticizing your life. And I'd never thought of it that way, but gratitude is one of those ways that you can romanticize your life. And there's so much, even in the midst of tragedy and grief and loss, there's so much to be grateful for. And finding and focusing on those things have gotten me through the hard, difficult times. The other thing, as women, we hold the power to create life. So not only can we create life, but we can create other things. So as we age into Crone, as we're no longer able to birth children, or choose not to birth children, also a very valid option, we can use our birthing powers to create something within us or for the world around us. And this is something that I do within my business. I create like courses and content and blog posts. I write poetry. I do all kinds of creative things. Not everything is with my business. I love to cook. That is a creative process for me, and I love to create different dishes. One of my favorite things is to go to the farmer's market and to buy what is in season, and then I take those things go home and I make a meal out of them. So that's a way for me to unleash creativity within my life. Some of my writing does not get shared. So some of writing for me is also a way of being and creating. We can even have a dance party as another way to be creative, to move and to use our body and to find that space within us of how and what we want to move. So it's another way to unleash creativity within ourselves. So let's talk a little bit about aging parents. I mentioned it a little bit. So the picture of the older couple is my mom and dad. That was one of the last pictures that they had taken together. And then the other thing that I had to do, because my parents and my brother passed away, and I have one living brother and some nieces and nephews, and a nephew, my one lone little nephew. My friends actually became my family as I aged. And so I pictured two of my dear sweet friends on the other side of this slide. Because they're the ones who have now become my family. They're the ones who, as we took care of, I say we, meaning my brothers and I took care of my parents as we lost our parents. I had to find new ways to celebrate different holidays, and I found a lot of those with my friends. So like I mentioned before, my mom was diagnosed with a brain tumor in 9 months. She was diagnosed with a brain tumor on Monday. She had her resection surgery on a Thursday, October 10th. And on July 10th, she took her last breath. There was a lot of up and down with her. She was in and out of the hospital. She was in and out of rehabilitation. She had basically a traumatic brain injury, and it was really difficult to get staff to do things for her. As a mild disability special education teacher, I worked with kids with traumatic brain injury, and you kind of knew some of the nuances with that. And so as the girl and as the one with the knowledge and the information regarding brain injury, because like I said, that's a very much like what she was experiencing. Her short-term memory was shot. She had a difficult time with her vision. She could see when people were right in front of her, and from the left she had peripheral, but she didn't have any peripheral on the right, I believe. Her long-term memory was intact. Short-term memory was shot. One of the things that she absolutely loved to do was to read, and it was awful watching her not be able to pick up a book and read. She would begin, she wanted to so desperately, and she would get to the bottom of the page and was unable to comprehend what she had read at the top of the page, so she would reread it. And then finally, it just got so frustrating that she would set it aside. Her short-term memory was so bad toward the end that you would go visit her and you would have the same conversation 6 times. She didn't understand time of day, what time of day it was. Well, Mom, I'm sitting here. The clock says 3 o'clock. it's not going to be 3 o'clock in the morning because I wouldn't be here if it was 3 o'clock in the morning. And my parents were high school sweethearts. So when mom passed away, it was really difficult for dad. And he, my brothers and I had the conversation of, we wondered how long our father would last when our mom passed away. And he lasted 2 years. He died slowly in the night. It's actually one of my not favorite stories to share, but I like sharing this story because this poor sweet nurse, she was so kind and she really wanted me to come in so that they could tell me in person. And I got the message of, I got a phone call at 5 o'clock on a Monday morning. And as a school teacher, it was during the school year. It was at the beginning of the school year. So it was late September. And the nurse kept saying, will you just please come in so we need to talk. Will you just please come in? And I was like, okay, well, what's he done now? Because my father was kind of notorious. He was really good at falling and fell and broke so many different things in his last couple of years. I was like, well, what? I need to know, am I taking a full day? Am I taking a half day? Like, what am I preparing for here? And poor thing, I ended up forcing her to tell me that my father had passed away a few hours before. And so I immediately took the rest of the week, got on my clothes, grabbed what I needed, and headed to the care facility that he had been in and wrote my lesson plans on my way. Fortunately, the school that I worked for was very caring, and they were just wonderful at supporting me through all of the aging and dying parents. And I will say this, at the end of the 3 years, 4 years, counting the time it took to handle their estate, my nervous system was a mess. And this is actually how I came into yoga. A friend of mine suggested, or came back into yoga. A friend of mine suggested that maybe it would help support me. And it became my refuge, my place of, I can be and feel anything here, and I can process it in my body on my mat. And that leads me to some practices for things that we can do. So for me, yoga also taught me to listen to my body. And so one of the things that's happened is I'm perimenopause right now, and one of my really good friends is an herbalist, and she's also in perimenopause. And we've been talking about like different things. And all of a sudden, a couple of weeks ago, I realized I was having hot flashes. Now, I know that may sound silly, but they weren't these. My mom would have these. I'm dying, sweat dripping. For me, it was more like a kind of warm. And I had night sweats. And I was doing some things food-wise and timing when I ate to help with the night sweats. And so finally I was talking to my friend at her apothecary on Wednesday, and I was like, well, she makes different blends of things. And I said, will the hot flash blend support me? And she said, yeah. And I'm like, okay, maybe I should have been listening to my body a little bit sooner. And so I started taking that recently. And last night was the first night that I haven't had hot flashes. Well, I did at like 4 o'clock in the morning, but I made it through most of the night without it. One of the other things that I do, grounding, take your socks and your shoes off, get your feet in the grass, can really help pull you back in. Sun gazing is an absolutely beautiful practice. You want to do this sunrise, sunset. You don't want to look directly at the sun. You want to just allow, you want to do it with your eyes closed and just allow the warmth to come over you. Allow the sun's light to come over you. This can actually help balance hormones. I read that somewhere, I'm not sure where, the other day. Meditation. And this was one of the things for me. So I do a lot of breath practices with my meditation. And that is something that has been very, very powerful for me. So we're going to do a little short practice right now. So take a moment and become familiar with your surroundings. You can look to the right and look to the left. Note where doors and windows are. Note who is in the room with you, if anyone. And if you are comfortable, close your eyes. If you are not comfortable, lower your lids and find some sort of a fixed point to gaze at in front of you. We're just going to begin to tune into our breath. Notice the inhale and the exhale. Notice how the body feels. You may even sense areas of tightness. The more you tune in, the more you can sense what's going on with the body. And very, very slowly begin to extend your inhale. So inhale a little bit deeper. Exhale a little bit longer. Make your exhale twice as long as your inhale. So maybe inhale for 3, 2, 1, and exhale for 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Again, inhale, 3, 2, 1. Exhale, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Couple more. Inhale, 3, 2, 1. Exhale, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale, 3, 2, 1. Exhale, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Release the breath. Notice, are there any differences? This breath where you extend the exhale so that it's twice as long as the inhale is really good if you're feeling frazzled, if you're feeling overwhelmed, if you're feeling anxious. It can help bring some grounding back into the body. So one of my meditation practices is I have a breath practice or two. I have about 10 or 11 breath practices that I can pull from. So I have a breath practice or two, and then I bring myself to a quiet meditation where maybe I silent sit for a few minutes. And then when the mind begins to fluctuate again, come back to the breath practice. Sit until the mind starts to fluctuate again, and then come back to the breath practice. So these are some ways that I have been able to age gracefully and come into my Crone years gracefully, knowing that life is going to throw things your way. And there are practices and things that we can use to support ourselves no matter what's happening. So one thing we need to do is create a space for change. Or to create space for support. So check your morning and evening routine. Give yourself a time and a space to do those things. Eat mindfully. So as you take a bite, don't have anything else going on. Chew and feel what that meal is doing for you and for your body. I mentioned dancing earlier. So dance or move as you need to, and embrace the beautiful being that you are, because no matter what is happening in your life and no matter what is happening with your body, you are a fabulous and amazing person. And the more you embrace it instead of fighting it, the easier it will be on you and on your body. So with that, let's stay connected. Again, my name is Paige Park, and I am the founder of Soul Sanctuary. I have a fun thing. If you go to my website and scroll down on the homepage a little bit, there's a gratitude. If you would like to join, I have because I speak a lot. I love gratitude practices, and I speak a lot about it. So I have a 30-day gratitude challenge. So it's a series of 30 emails, one a day for 30 days, of course, giving you each week there's a different focus, and then each day there's a different thing to focus on. And there's a list, and you can begin a gratitude journal if that's something you're interested in by joining that. You can also reach out to me through my email. I'm on social media, on Instagram at Page Park Journeying with underscores between page and journeying, and on Facebook at Soul Sanctuary. I would love to hear from you and be able to chat with you. So with that, I'm going to stop my share, and I'm so thankful that I could be here and share with you all. Thank you so much, Lisa.
Thank you. I love that coming back to your breath practice when your meditation, when you can't just sit still and
Right, because the mind will fluctuate.
Right? And coming back to your breath is such a great way to gently pull you back in, right? To gently, because so often if we're meditating, if we're sitting still and meditating, because you can meditate in other ways.
So many
different. If you're sitting still and meditating, you're sitting still and you want to be quiet. And then all of a sudden you go, oh, I forgot to put the chicken in the oven, or gotta do this, gotta do that. Like there's all kinds of stuff going on. To gently, because then you go, oh my gosh, I can't do this. And I'm not going to do this right now. My brain's too busy. I can't do it. And that's when you need it the most.
Right. Yes, so much.
That's when you need that.
And I would even recommend if you make to-do lists while you're trying to meditate, keep a notebook next to you. Open your eyes, jot down what came to your mind, and then come to your breath, and then back into your practice. So that way it's written down. You can tell your mind, it's okay. You can forget about it. I got it. I'll remember it later because I wrote it down. I would keep an inspiration notebook next to me sometimes when I meditate, because oftentimes I'll get ideas when I'm meditating, when I'm driving, and unfortunately, when I'm in the shower. Because then I have to remember that.
It's like first thing in the morning when I wake up and I'm not quite awake yet, and I just start having idea. And this morning I had the idea. I don't know if you saw when I did my talk at 8:00 this morning. It was about conscious devotion, and that came to me this morning because I was thinking, we so often we're told that we have to, do things a certain way and behave and do this and that, whatever. And then, so when we start to take care of ourselves, when it comes to self-care, we get frustrated because we're not dedicated, or we're not, like, there are all these words that come up, when you, like, you don't have enough dedication. Like, yes, I do. I'm dedicated to this. You don't have enough, I don't know. There's all of these things that happen, right? When you can't succeed at something. And I thought, what is the feeling around doing something out of love? And it's devotion. So if I could be consciously devoted to myself, then anything's possible. Then, of course, I could stick to it because I'm loving myself. I'm devoted to me. I'm, and it's such an easier way of saying it, such a more gentle vibration around it, more gentle feeling around it. Right?
And it takes away other people's energy.
Right.
So then you don't have to do, or act the way they're telling you. You're like, I'm just going to be consciously devoted to myself.
Right. And with that breath work, it was so what you were saying, as soon as your brain turns back on and you start, start going, And then you go, oh yeah, I need to breathe. And you get back into that breath. It brings you right back in it. It just eases you right back in it. And that's what it's all about, is the ease of it. Because if you start right away with that negative self-talk, oh, I can't do this. I gotta, I've got to go change the oil in my car or whatever. All this stuff's happening. There's no ease about that.
No.
And the whole point of meditation is that ease and that calm that your body needs to be in.
Yeah. And to begin to become aware of the fluctuations of the mind. So by going, oh, the mind's going a little nuts right now, you're becoming aware. You're bringing awareness to the mind's like, oh, we a little crazy today. And then by coming back to the breath, and I've had those moments. I've had those so many times. I sit down to meditate, especially when grief and loss is prevalent. The mind really struggles, and it doesn't have to be long. And sometimes it's just sitting with the ick.
Yeah.
And just letting the mind be the way it's going to be. And if the breath works, great. And if it doesn't, that's okay too.
Right.
Because sometimes it's not going to work it's going to be a struggle. And just recognize, you know what? It's okay. Today's a struggle. And I'm just going to be with the struggle.
What helps me in that moment when I just can't get there is just to lay on my back on the floor and to just stretch and move while I'm lying down, because it's really grounding, right? Your whole body's on the ground, but there's no forces working against me. It's just me moving, stretching, getting some of that energy flow. And we've talked about this in the past, is helping that energy flow through your body and helping get that energy out. And that, and honestly, for people, I would just have to say this to everybody. If you haven't laid on the floor in a long time on your back and stretched your arms and legs out and made little carpet angels, honestly, do it, because you'll feel better.
You will. You'll
feel better.
For me, when the mind really starts taking off, I need to move as well. And for me, it ends up being a walking meditation.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm going to take the dog for a walk. I'm going to go outside. I'm going to be in nature, and I'm going to let the mind, I'm going to come back to the mind. I'm going to control the fluctuations of the mind that way.
Yeah. But sometimes it's if you're not lying on the floor, you're not feeling any resistance.
Yeah.
Your body's flat on the floor. You're grounded. There's no resistance. And sometimes when you need that rest, walking, even if it is outside, even if it does feel good, you can't get there.
Yeah.
So lie on the floor and stretch your body and move your body and just move your head back and forth, move your legs back and forth, rock your legs back and forth, move, put your arms up above your head and back down. Just easy movements.
Make carpet angels, like you said.
Make carpet angels. Don't get rug burns, but make carpet angels
carefully
and softly, and just release some of that energy. Because if you've got too much energy going on to sit and meditate, you need to move that energy through your body. And if you don't have the strength or the will to go out for a walk, because sometimes you just don't, you're so overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Just lay on the floor and relax.
Lay on the floor. You can also, if you're in a seat, so maybe lay on the floor and do some wiggling, and then come into a seat and move like your shoulders and your hips and your head, like a little side to side motion. I sometimes
do that with your face. That's a really good one.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Let the dog lick your face, and all is well with the world at that point.
I have a picture of one of my private clients in Shavasana, final rest, flat on his back on the floor with two dogs like curled up with him.
Yeah. Yeah, it works. It's magic. It's magical.
It is.
Thank you, Paige. We will
Thank you so much.
see you at 4 o'clock for the panel. I've got
Yes.
some juicy questions. So we'll see you there in just about 50 minutes.
All right. Sounds great. See you then.